Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of visionary entrepreneurs and uncover the strategies driving their success. I'm your host, Jay Encarnacion, and today we're excited to sit down with Tanner O'Brien, senior partner and co-owner of Action Coach Central Texas. Tanner brings a unique blend of mechanical engineering from MIT, psychology and coaching from Luther College, and over 8 years of business coaching experience helping entrepreneurs scale profitably and build dreams teams. Based in Leander, Texas, Action Coach Central Texas, part of the Global Action Coach Network, empowers business owners to make more money, free up time, and create sustainable systems. We'll be diving into Tanner's founding story, how his firm transforms businesses, and his vision for scaling impact. With that being said, let's dive right into it. Tanner, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
An absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. And I mean, an incredible background. So, really looking forward and an honor to have you here. So, if you could take us back to the beginning, what specific problem in the business coaching landscape, Tanner, really inspired you to join and later co own Action Coach Central Texas?
It's interesting. I'm probably one of the few within at least the action coach space. I don't know, maybe the coaching space overall. I didn't come in to be a coach. Really didn't have any interest, probably isn't the right word. But when we look at the overall journey overall, so our firm is actually owned by myself and my parents. So I'm family
Okay.
business. If you want all
Yeah.
the ups and downs and things like that that come along with family business, I could tell you stories. Really, the background is degree in psychology. I worked in a nonprofit, worked in banking for a while, was a VP over at Bank of America up through 2020, and my dad had bought into the franchise back in 2011.
Yeah.
And so fast forward into 2020, he comes to me and he's like, "Hey, I've got this opportunity to make a trend with the business." Forever it had been just him. So the impact that he could have was just his impact. And he's like, "Well, you know what? I have this ability. I'd love to transition to what we call a firm, which means I'm going to need somebody that really understands the business building side because he just loved the coaching side. Would you be interested in joining?" Yeah, that'd be absolutely amazing. I would love to leave the big corporate world and come and be part of building a business. So I took the leap and I jumped in. For the last 5 years or so, we've been really building. But I started as the individual that was going to help build our business specifically, less on the coaching side, and then ended up going through full coach training in 2021.
Incredible. So definitely want to dive right into that, especially for our listeners. Obviously, an incredible background to be where you were really at the top of the corporate world to now being on this side of the field here, being an owner and being a founder and really just putting your foot forward into what you're passionate about. So walk us through really how you're generating revenue today with Action Coach Central Texas, especially for our listeners who could very well want to come and work with you after they hear this. What is the core offer there? I know you have one-on-one coaching, you have a 90-day planning. How is that structured and who is your ideal client? So, three-part question for you there, Tim.
Yeah, so I'll start with we'll call it the ideal client question. I'll connect into how that fits. So I always like to frame this with if you're a business owner that's listening to this, right? And I'm guessing most that listen to this show are likely business owners or entrepreneurs. So that box is usually checked. But if you're sitting there and you're going, "I'm stuck and I can't figure out why," there's something that I'm missing. Maybe I have the knowledge, but I haven't figured out exactly how to make it click within my business to go from point A to point B. Now that could be I'm at 500,000. I don't know how to get to my first million. It could be I'm at 10 million. I just don't know how to get to 50 because they're completely different games on both ends of the spectrum. So if you're sitting there and you're like, I feel like I'm out of time. I don't know how to get additional investment. I don't know how to know it. There's something that's missing that's holding me back from actually achieving this whole reason I got into business in the first place, which is to have this life that I desired. Then it's likely worth a conversation. Now, where does that fit into the how we make revenue in different things like that? So as you know, there's one-to-one coaching, there's 90-day planning, different things like that. So traditionally, depending on where a business is in their journey, is going to be ultimately what's going to be the best fit for them. Traditionally, if you're a little bit more of a mature business, you're looking at faster growth, something that's truly a one-to-one with myself or one of the other coaches is the fastest way to move you forward. Now, there's others that come in, they're like, "I'm not quite ready for that," but everybody needs a plan. Got to be working the plan if you want to build a business. That's where something like a 90-day planning session comes in once a quarter. But then there's stuff for education. We've got a variety of different 12-week master classes that we run that are all designed by the Action Coach system. We've got group coaching options for those that just aren't quite ready for the one-to-one version. But there tends to be a place that we can plug people in. If that's not a fit and you're like, "Whoa, Tanner, that's way too much. I'm not ready for this whole coaching thing yet," that's absolutely fantastic. We've got a lot of different free options to come in and get some education in, whether it be a workshop or something else where we can teach some of those frameworks, help you solve maybe just one thing within the business. So there's a place to start for everybody depending on where you're at in your journey.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. With that, you really have a full-fledged offering here for your clients. How are you approaching as the owner now the idea of scale, right? Where's your mind now that you've been in it for a few years, you're seeing success? Where are you taking this? How are you planning to really take this to the next level?
Systems, team, and ultimately firing ourselves from a bunch of different positions. That, if I could bring
Yeah,
it down to one very simple little thing, we've been fortunate to go through 5 years of building the foundation within the business, understanding the marketing and sales game. Now it's how do we start to create some of the efficiency with some of our systems, whether that's within marketing and sales or what's in the delivery and the operations or coaching side of things, or it's how do we systemize some of the finance functions? How do we start creating the systems that team members can then run? And then we start to develop the team. We start bringing them on. And eventually I start looking at all the different hats that we get to wear in the business, both myself and my parents as business partners, and go, okay, which one do we get to hand off next? And which one are we going to fire ourselves from? Because us doing it at 10% capacity is not ever going to be as good as somebody who can do it at 100% capacity.
absolutely.
So we're really looking at those pivotal next hires to be able to start taking some of those specialist roles off our plate.
Amazing. Amazing. So on that front, would love to dive a bit deeper into that side, right? So especially on the acquisition standpoint, or you said you have a really good system dialed down. Now, what channels have you seen be most effective for those clients and those leads to continuously come in, whether it's the social media side, referral side, or ads that you're running? Walk us through what channels have been most effective for you.
Yeah, I love this question. It's an area that I'm personally very passionate about. I
Yeah.
could literally talk for days on this particular topic, but I was actually just filling out a KPI report this morning. How many different channels did we use? And I think we
Yeah.
had 8 different channels that technically produced results over the last month. Some very, very strong, some not as strong. But when it comes down to it, a lot of our time, energy, and effort is all focused on about 3 strategies that we know produce the largest results. And they're going to be probably very similar to much of the audience or others have been guests on the show, but they're going to be client referrals is always going to
Yeah.
be a big one, strategic partners and different partnerships like that. So another form of referrals. Networking traditionally is a great way to creating a list of names. And then a fourth one right now is going to be a LinkedIn direct outreach type of a process just to start a conversation.
Love that. So with those being the main four that you're seeing a lot of success with, obviously a big piece there is going to be predictability. So do you also have more of a lever that you can pull for predictable leads to come in, whether that is ads or more on the social media side? What are you doing on that front?
I would say for us specifically, we've really focused on what has worked
Yeah.
and have removed anything that has not been proven to work yet. And I say that very cautiously because I know that any channel can work. Ads can work. We are not currently running ads, but we have not chosen to test enough to ensure that it's working effectively. So probably the biggest levers that we can pull is I know we can still spend a bit more time going to additional networking events knowing that the goal is to add people to the list that then we can continue to warm up over time. The similar process when it comes to the LinkedIn outreach or other direct message outreach, whether it would be on other platforms, things like that. I'd say for us, it's also augmented with a bunch of social media content. We do not see that as a place that we're really trying to generate leads from, but it is a credibility piece that does help with conversion down the road.
I love that. So as far as the sales side goes and the sales process as a whole here, Tanner, are you running the show? Being that you're so passionate about the sales side, is this just you that's running it, or do you have a sales team and a setter and a closer that are helping you out on that front? What does that look like from the outside looking in?
A little bit of both. So I'd say overall strategy, while it's never a singular focus, the team gets to focus on this thing to get spending a little bit of time. Really, a lot of my time is focused on how do we maximize and fill the gaps within the overall process? How long does that need to be? Where's somebody entering the funnel? All of that kind of stuff. We do have, depending on the lead channel for some of the LinkedIn direct outreach type stuff, we're going to have team members that are focused specifically on really the setting piece of it. And then we've got, whether it's myself, it's either Andy or Jody on our team. We're the core sales team at this point that's focused on the true sales conversations and moving through the rest of that process and ultimately getting to be the ones that get to the close, right? So it's a little bit of both. Now, if we're talking strategic partners or networking or something else like that, it may be less on a setter's piece and more on us that have the relationship built up, but it really is channel dependent.
Amazing. Absolutely. On that same front, obviously knowing that you have a real concrete offer solid style on the acquisition piece, having the sales process locked down. What are you thinking about at this point, 5 years in, knowing that you want to scale around the bottlenecks, whether that is, again, more predictability on the lead gen side or maybe bringing on a more dedicated setter and closer model on the sales team? What is that bottleneck that you're thinking about to break through going into 2026?
That's a really good question. I think there's a couple ways I think about it. The first one is I'd say if there's an immediate, like short-term constraint or bottleneck that I see, it really is senior partner capacity. Knowing that in the short term, we've got to put limits of what's possible on our calendars to be able to grow into the next level without needing to take on like outside investment or something else. Like create the organic cash flow that allows us to hire team members and buy back some of the time. But from a model standpoint, as we continue to prove out some of the process behind the channels that we know work, being able to systemize what that looks like to hire specialists within the area, right? So if we've got setters on LinkedIn direct outreach. What does that process look like that it's very easy to hire somebody to fill that in and increase the volume? Same thing could go with networking. You could hire people specific to only do networking where their only goal is to put people into, say, free workshops or something else like that. Little things like that, I think, is the first iteration in terms of scaling that portion of the business. Coach capacity probably is going to be the next one that we are currently focused on, whether that's working with additional coaches within the system or it's hiring a full-time coach or somebody that's on part-time to start with, but working through that next iteration as the capacity continues to grow.
That kind of bleeds a little bit into the next question I have for you here, Tanner. That's going to be really more of the picture, right? The vision for the rest of this year. You alluded to it a bit there, but what are you really laser focused on for that continued growth and scale the rest of 2025 moving into 2026 here?
I'm going to give the probably selfish answer on this, but getting into the end of this year, I want us to achieve the best month we've ever had. Our goal is to get back to about a year or 2 years ago. We were at the height of our business in terms of revenue size and different things like that. Had a few different things happen within the business that kind of brought us back a bit. So being
Yeah,
able to build back up and just hit that next marker again and say, yep, we are back into hitting new growth within the business. So that's like immediate iteration number one, and then being able to grow into really for us locally here, knowing that we're a franchise, knowing that we are territory based. It's not like we're going to take over the rest of the country or anything else like that with
right.
regards to what we do specifically, but being relatively dominant within our local area and really providing the results that the community would like to see. That tends to be where the longer term focus tends to be for this business.
I love it. I love it. And I would love for you to touch on that, the fact of what you just brought up, right? You had some really high highs and then started to plateau or taper down. For other founders that are listening in and are experiencing that, what kind of can you say to speak towards that a bit? What happened on that front and what did you kind of turn things around and get it back to a point where now you are going right back to reaching for those higher highs?
Yeah, there's a couple things I can share. I will share. I'll take you back 3 years
Yeah,
because I think this has been a fun story that my guess is there will be a lot of folks that relate to this in some way, shape, or form. But if we
absolutely.
go back about 3 years ago, I thought we were doing really good in business, right? We had hired a bit of a team. Things were going really well. At least we thought it was going really well.
Yeah.
We hired a new coach to coach us because we fully believe in the things that we do. And I remember this so clearly. We were sitting down in one of our first coaching sessions and this coach had asked us for our financials. We handed over the financials and he's looking at them and he's like, I can't read these. What do you mean? He's like, the P&L doesn't match the balance sheet. There's no statement of cash flow. I can't read these. First off, you might want to fire your accountant. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it forced us to go on this journey of one, cleaning up the books, two, putting together a cash flow forecast. We actually built a cash flow forecast that was focused weekly out. I think it was
Wow.
eight to 10 weeks, something like that. And we got all of this together and realized that, holy crap, we're 4 weeks away from having to close the business. We were bleeding
Wow.
cash, had no idea. It had taken on and made some poor decisions along the way, and really had to pull everything out in terms of what decisions we could make. So one of the first decisions was, senior partners, guess what? We're not getting paid anymore. Second was, what else can we cut? And then everybody's name got put up on a whiteboard, and we had to determine who was going to be able to stay with the business so that we could stay in business and
Right.
be able to continue to grow. It was a hard moment. You imagine being in business with your family, like those conversations get even harder when it's your
Yeah.
parents that you're having conversations with. We go through that, but it forced us to go back to some of the fundamentals and look at what is the effective way to be able to grow and build a business. What are the things that we forgot, we missed along the way? And just go back to some of the basics and recognize we've been through hard things before. We're going to go through hard things again. Yeah, ideally, it'd be amazing. Everything was just always up and to the right.
Yeah.
I know that's not always the case, but recognizing that if you're still there, you're still standing and breathing and having gone through hardship in the past, you likely can endure it this next time around, and just focus on the things that you know work and grow the business back to where you know it can go.
Incredible. Incredible. And I really appreciate you sharing that with listeners because, as you said, many founders go through those same motion, and to hear what you were able to do to sit back, say, okay, hold on a second, let's reassess and put the moving pieces into place that have to be put into place, even though those hard conversations need to be had. It's incredible to hear that from you as a founder and see where you are now and right back to hitting new highs, which is amazing on that front. So truly appreciate you sharing that story there. I got two more questions for you before we do wrap up the show today, Tanner. And the first one's going to be on the evolution side of things. So how do you personally see, Tanner, the business coaching industry evolving in the coming years, especially with your systems thinking approach? What are you really doing to keep yourself at the forefront of that evolution that you're picturing?
Yeah, I'm going to say the two letters that are on most people's mind at this point, and that is AI.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that there's going to be a path forward for this industry overall with regards to working with AI versus having to compete against it. I think it'd be very easy to say, coaches, knowledge-based industry, there's going to be a lot of things that can just be done with AI these days. And while that may be true, I still believe that there is a very clear difference between understanding something from a knowledge base and being able to effectively implement that on a day to day. And there's some human emotion that comes behind that. So I see a progress with using AI as a tool to continue to accelerate more growth. I see it as a tool to impact more businesses and get deeper within businesses and allow a lot more of those human emotions to be taken into account, where we kind of with individuals from that level and help them grow as people, not just as businesses overall. So I think that's going to be a big piece. Exactly how it plays out, I don't think anybody really knows, but I'm a big fan of how that can positively impact the industry, as well as multiple micro ways that can also help within the business even today.
I love it. I love that. And then last but certainly not least here, Tanner, what is the best piece of advice that you can offer to our listeners tuning in? Just heard your incredible journey this far. What can you leave them with before we wrap up the show today?
Build the foundation first and always focus on strengthening it. Know where you're going, measure and track your resources, which is time and money, deliver consistently, and really, especially if you're a founder and you're just starting out, master marketing and sales.
I love that. With that right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. And just a massive thank you again to you, Tanner, for coming on the show and sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us. And as I mentioned, just clear as day, your passion, your drive, the intelligence, going through the ups and downs, it's clear as day that you are going to see some significant success. And it's truly an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show here. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And also check out Action Coach Central Texas at actioncoachcentraltx.com for their coaching programs. And follow Tanner on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Tanner O'Brien 001. For more resources and insights, you can visit us here at closers.io, where we help businesses accelerate their growth. Until then, keep climbing, and we will see you on the next one.